Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing MWeston in the 5-minute pool on ICC. Let's play a Scandi against MWeston. The IM, a frequent opponent in the 5-minute pool. I see him around a lot. Okay, let's just play knight f6. This way of playing with bishop to g2 is popular. I actually played the queen a5 line on instinct in this game, but I could have just as easily played queen d8. Lately, I've been playing a lot more queen d8, but queen a5 will always hold a soft spot in my heart because that's the move I've been playing in the Scandi for the longest. So it may look weird what white is doing here with rook b1 and a3, but they're just gearing up for an eventual b4. So for that reason, I'm actually going to retreat my queen prophylactically, and possibly if they play b4, maybe play a6 myself to try to put a stop to b5. MWeston actually has kind of a low rating right now. I'm used to seeing them a little bit higher rated. Okay, so let's just castle. I'm going to postpone a decision regarding the exchange. I expect them to castle too. And maybe rook fe8. Either that or rook a d8. Maybe rook a d8 is a bit better. Let's do that. I'm not taking on f4 because they would take with their knight, and I'm just unsure like how that would turn out. So let's postpone that decision for now. Okay, and it looks like he's going to go after the bishop pair. Is knight e5 worth considering? And he's going to take it. Let's just put the bishop back on g6. So white has a light square bishop that has no opponent. But on the whole, I retain a solid position, so I don't mind. Okay, let's come here. I'm going to withdraw my queen so that my rook has more free reign down the file. How about knight d5 now? This looks like a good reply to what he just did with queen e3. Yeah, and he goes right back. So I think they're going to try to get me to trade so they can eventually push the pawn to c4. I think is going to be the point. Let's go knight here. I'll be stubborn. If a trade occurs, I want to be able to take with my pawn. So I can have some play down the c-file and maybe blunt this bishop. So it's something of a standoff, just like it was before with the bishop takes e2, or sorry, bishop takes f4 idea. Knight a4, so looking to jump into c5, also gets ready for c4. I could play b5, but b5 seems too aggressive right now, and also it gives up the c5 square. Okay, I'm going to play to trade. Going right back, I changed my mind. I want to swap for this knight now. I'm kind of giving white perhaps what they want, but we'll see. Queen c3, knight d5 maybe, right back to d5. Yeah, let's do that. Attack the queen. I welcome bishop takes d5 once again. This piece has the potential to be a monster in the long run if it combines with white pushing the pawns on the queen side, so I really would like it for white to take and exchange for me. Okay, let's do this and then play rook d7. Just firmly defend the b-pawn. I'm hoping that this pawn proves to be weak on c5, like maybe I can play queen a5 and attack it. We'll find out. Okay, so time-wise, I'm not doing too bad. I could try to speed up a little bit. Once again, I've been making a real point in recent videos to try to play faster. And they take, okay. So if I take with the c-pawn, probably d4 will be the answer. If I take with the rook, they're going to take b7, trade, 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 take here. Gives me plenty of play, though. If I take with this pawn, then the e-file is closed. Looks roughly even in that case. Okay, let's take this way. And then after they move the rook up the file, I'm going to play rook e7 and probably just offer a trade down the file. Rook e5. Okay, so let's do this. So if they take, and then take b7, I'll take c5 at the end. That's the point of my play. So let's do this. Oppose them down the file once again. Let's see what white has in store here. I don't really think there's much for white to do. Queen into b6. Yeah, even that move doesn't do a whole lot. Okay, let's play g5, just gain a little space. Not worried about any incursions with the white queen. It can't really go anywhere anyways. So let's just play g6 and then bring the king up to g7. I'm going to play f6, actually. If they go queen d4 check, I'll probably play f6. I think this queen ending is just equal. I don't see either of us really getting an edge out of this. So queen takes c5, queen d7 check is the invitation. Don't know that I really want to take that, though. Yeah, because I lose my b7 pawn. So let's see, take, check, king h6. Nah, okay, I'm going to take it.
Check.
And then probably come here. Nah, actually, let's come here. They could play queen c8 and threaten mate, though. Or queen d8, yeah. Might have to settle for a draw. We'll see if white wants to push for more. Could play queen e8 and try to go for something. Or take b7, allow me to take c2, and then maybe queen here.
Check.
I'm going to claim a draw. Okay, he did it before I could. Yeah, I think that's the logical outcome. The only thing I'm kind of worried about here is if white can go, like, queen takes b7, queen takes c2, and then queen here. Maybe this is something. Trying to come here and threaten mate. I don't know. Take here. And how do I avert checkmate? I have to go for checks, but white can sidestep. So maybe queen f7 was something white could consider. Let me just check the engine before we go back and look at this game. Queen c3, queen here, and then f5. Okay, so I have to open up an avenue for my queen to guard h8, and it's still equal. All right, let's go back and have a more extensive look. So I played the queen a5 Scandi, always reliable, and white played g3. I've usually played just knight f6, c6, and then bishop g4 against the bishop g2 line, but it is possible to play in more aggressive fashion. Some ideas you might have seen me experiment with in Bullet are bishop d7, bishop g2, and then bishop c6, trying to trade the bishops. I don't know if I fully trust this idea, but it's something more active that black can do. Putting the bishop on the square usually reserved for the knight is strange, and black is taking a little bit of a risk in doing that. I've also even on occasion played h5 here. Actually, I think I had a Blitz game against Daniel Naroditsky where I played this and sacrificed and exchanged and won the game even. But I don't think h5 is sound. So this is usually how the game develops. Black just bringing the bishop out. I kept the bishop. I didn't take on e2. And this wing strategy combined with the bishop on g2 has proven to be a fairly venomous plan for white. White can look forward to attacking me on the queen side. Moreover, it's a pretty easy plan to play. So I'm not surprised that white went for this because I see a lot of players play like this against the Scandi, and it's probably good for like a tiny edge. Black's position remains solid, but white's is probably the easier position to play. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so I didn't want to take on f4 quite yet because I know white's going to take with a knight and attack my bishop. That's what ended up happening anyways, but I didn't want to initiate that trade yet. I felt like it was better to just castle and stay flexible. So with this move, rook a d8, I'm just trying to position my rook on a file that I think will be useful. It's a judgment call at this point, but with rook a d8, I think that the d file, the half-open d file, could be of value later. And I didn't want to use this rook because I think in some circumstances rook fe8 could be the move that you'd like to play with this rook. So I didn't want to limit myself and therefore played rook a d8. I am abandoning the queen side a little bit, but I expect white to push over here, and me having a rook like in the crossfire, I mean, even the bishop on g2 on the same diagonal as this rook may not turn out to be insignificant. That could be something in the long run. So I think rook a d8 makes a little more sense than rook f d8. The engine likes e5 here, just attacking the bishop. This is usually not a move I play, trying to shut down this queen-bishop battery, but what's the follow-up? e5, bishop e3, h6. Okay. I mean, in playing e5, black does gain some space and makes it harder for white to push d4. So that could be worth something. So this was played in the game, and then b4. I played a6, just stopping b5 for now. I think a4 would be a consistent way of playing for white, looking to play b5. And I might have played b5 myself against that, trying to fight back and stop white from just pushing. Because let's say I just play an indifferent move here, like rook fe8. White gets to push b5, and I've seen a lot of circumstance, or a lot of games where this circumstance brings about a weakening in black's pawn structure on the queen side. The engine still doesn't think it's a big deal, but let's just look at the line it suggests. e5, bishop e3, a5. I would assume take here, take here. And this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. Now black has pawns that are split up. Yeah, the engine, again, doesn't think it's an issue, but to my eyes, I would like to stop white from puncturing a hole in my structure if I can, and a6 is one way to do that, and maybe even b5 if necessary to slow them down. So, okay, so take, and then white played knight f4. I just brought the bishop back. And I think right around here I said that white was probably a tiny bit better, and I think I stand by that. It just looks a little more comfortable to play white's side of the board, especially with this bishop. If I can neutralize that bishop, then I think black is completely fine, but this bishop on the h1, a8 diagonal is much better than if the bishop stood like on, I don't know, say like c4 or something. It has a lot of influence from this square, and I can't discount the possibility of white continuing with that queenside plan. So here, we shadow boxed for a little bit at this stage. I thought queen e3 was kind of inaccurate because it allows knight d5, but white just went right back. Yeah, and the computer says I should do the same, just repeat the position. I did this, and knight a4 could be a good idea for white. I played knight b6, saying, trade with me. Yeah, in retrospect, maybe I should just take on c3 right away, or go back, as the computer was saying. Considering that I had to go out of my way to trade in a couple more moves, maybe I should just swap the knights immediately and get it over with. Could save a tempo or two. Because now I have to get rid of this piece on c5. If white gets a chance to open the queen side with a4 and b5, I'm really not going to like the combination of the knight and the bishop attacking my structure. So I did this, queen c3. It's been holding steady at a white advantage right around here. Rook d7. I felt good about this position because I felt like white's bishop was blunted, and with this pawn on c6 being virtually unassailable now by a white b pawn, it doesn't look like that bishop will be bothering me as it once could have or may have been. So I played rook d7, and he just took on d5. If something like c4 is played, I was thinking about knight e7 and trying to route the knight into like the d4 square, for instance. Maybe double up the rooks and attack d3. As long as we keep b7 firmly defended, black is fine. So he just took, and I took with the e-pawn. Thought about rook takes as well, but it occurred to me that white might be a tiny bit better in this resulting endgame. Maybe it's nothing, but at the time it seemed pleasant for white. Yeah, like c4 and try to prove that this rook isn't doing a whole lot. If rook a5, white can always bring this rook back to b3. I think white's got a tiny edge. So that's why I took this way. And c takes d5 I didn't like as much because even though I attacked this pawn, I thought d4, and I didn't see a clear way forward with my pawns. Like, e5 will be hard to organize. I can never play b6. I'm going to be tied down to the defense of the b-pawn. Maybe even they do, like, rook e3 to b3 here. Triple up on the b-pawn. Yeah, and the engine does not like this for black at all, so that's probably the worst capture of the three. So I took this way. White came in with a rook. I offered a trade. So in playing this move, I have to know that this line is okay for me. If white takes on e7 and then takes b7, I can take here, and white has two pawns under attack. Queen takes a6, queen takes c2, rook b7. Still claims a tiny edge. But yeah, I think with the major pieces on board, I should be able to neutralize this. Got to watch the white A pawn. Want to make sure that pawn doesn't get too far down the board, but it should be nothing. So white doubled up, and we swapped all the rooks down the file. And I think this ending is dead level. The queens cancel each other out because my queen has to stay defending b7, but white's queen also has to keep an eye on c5. And my queen could become active down the file if white is not proceeding with care, so that does limit what white can do. And you notice even the queen right here on b6, it has no future. Like even queen a7 doesn't ever harm us too much. So I just played g5. There's nothing to be gained from moving the queens for either player, really. So I think taking a moment to gain some space on the king side and maybe allow my king to come up, maybe play g6, king g7 as I did, is not bad here.
Check.
So this all happened. I played f6. Yeah, and this was an interesting psychological moment. I decided to take on c5, but possibly that's not best. Yeah, maybe I should just move my king, king f7, and wait black out, or wait white out. Because now I'd be threatening to take, and should white check, I could bring my queen back to e7. In the game, I take, and after check, my king has to go somewhere awkward. If I go to the back rank, then they get to win my b pawn with check. Something like that. Although I guess I could play queen f8 here, couldn't I? Maybe that doesn't matter too much. Yeah, this is still probably in white's favor. This pawn is weak. And so is this and my king. Yeah, I think it was incorrect for me to take on c5. I think just king f7, like the engine is saying. Keep everything defended and threaten to take queen takes c5 next.
Check.
But fortunately, my opponent didn't find a good way to pressure me here.
Check.
And just settled for the repetition.
Check.
So best would have been queen c8, threatening mate. I probably would have gone back here, to be honest. But after take, let's say king here again. Queen takes a6. Queen takes c2. Okay, so this is kind of like the ending I talked about earlier when queen and rook were on board. But I think with just queens on the board, that means that white's king is going to be safer. And maybe this a-pawn, and the engine certainly seems to think so, this a-pawn could be the decisive factor for white. Also, it must be said my king is a lot weaker than the queen-rook versus queen-rook position we had earlier with this same pawn distribution. So yeah, probably the nakedness of my king plus the passed a-pawn could win the game for white. +3 is, yeah, that's in winning territory for white. So hypothetically, if queen d7 check, king h6, and white had played queen c8, best for me would be not to play king here, and not to try to defend against queen h8 with my king, but instead play queen e7, inviting this check. Yeah, I'm almost positive I would not have gone for this, even though it might be better. This just looks wrong somehow, but in the cold light of analysis with the engine, I see why I should do that, because the other line looks really dangerous that I just went over. Queen d8, and white can play for a win. Again, my king is weak. Okay, so overall, I think a pretty reasonable game. Maybe could have played the queen ending slightly better, but on the whole, I think we both played well, and a draw makes sense. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll be back again soon with another one. Talk to you guys later. Bye.